This story starts out like any cliché web novel. One day, the MC suddenly wakes up in a medieval fantasy world. He had no idea how he ended up there in the first place. To survive in such a hostile place, he had no choice but to become a mercenary and started cutting down his enemies no matter who they were. All of it was necessary just to keep himself breathing at the end of the day. Until, right when he was about to meet his end at the hands of a barbarian, a woman saves him. She warns him that a single slip-up can be fatal, demanding that he stay sharp at all times. Then, she gives the order to blow the war horn. The soldier obeys instantly, sounding the instrument. At the horn's call, the entire army charges with full force against the enemy lines. After everything, the only wish left for the young man in this new world is to simply survive. The woman from before approaches him and remarks that he made it through once again. She steps closer and gently strokes his face, saying she just wanted to check if that handsome face got hurt. Right after that, it starts to rain, and the woman tells him everything is going to be alright. She then calls the MC by his name, Aaron, and comments that she really likes the rain, adding that once the war is over, they should head east because it rains a lot over there. Finally, she asks him never to forget her, no matter what happens. Suddenly, someone blows a whistle. The guards shout furiously, ordering everyone to run and capture the fugitives before they leave the castle. Two men run toward Aaron, addressing him by his title, Captain. Aaron asks about the other soldiers, and the men reply that they should arrive shortly. One of them comments that he never expected gentle Hans to cause such a huge mess. The other soldier immediately chimed in, saying with disdain that Hans is actually a mage. He claims mages can't be trusted, and that Hans must have made a deal with a demon. Aaron listens intently, thoughtfully repeating the word demon. His comrade laughs off the story about demons, saying it's just jealousy over losing the title of handsome guy to Hans. The annoyed soldier shouts back, furious over the taunt about his nickname. Seeing Aaron walking away, they ask where he's going, and he replies that he's heading to headquarters. One of them humorously comments that Hans' nickname is definitely going to change from now on. The joke is that his new nickname would be Hans, the handsome guy with only a head left. Aaron just grunts listlessly at his subordinate's bad joke. The group concludes that Hans will probably be strung up as soon as the guards catch him. Aaron arrives at the location and knocks firmly on the headquarters' wooden door. Commander Manhwa asks if it isn't a bit late for the captain to show up. Aaron excuses himself, saying he was late because he fell into a deep sleep. Manhwa then shifts the topic, mentioning rumors that Aaron was quite close to Hans. The commander looks him dead in the eye and asks if that information is actually true. Aaron thinks that to some extent it was true, as Hans was a sharp kid who got into the magic academy. However, he decides to lie and denies any closeness to keep things from getting complicated for him. Hearing the denial, the commander says that's great news and a stroke of luck. He explains that the case involves the Lord's daughter and that Hans stole something extremely valuable and forbidden. The commander adds that if their local guard manages to capture the fugitive themselves, their reputation will skyrocket. Manhwa laughs out loud, thinking about how thrilled the landowner will be if they solve this case. He looks sternly at the MC and gives a clear order. He wants Hans brought back, dead or alive. Aaron accepts the mission, promising to do his best, fully aware that the case directly involves the lord of the manor himself. Leaving the commander's room, the young man thinks to himself that this entire situation is a major pain in the neck. He worries that because of Hans' actions, his own head might be on the line too when someone calls out to him. The members of the 4th Guard Unit step forward, reporting that all preparations for the search are complete. Under a relentless pouring rain, the guards begin patrolling the dark streets of the town. One of the guards questions if Hans would really hide in a place as filthy as District 7, knowing he has a weak stomach. They complain about the foul smell and suggest pretending to search just so they can go grab a warm brew somewhere cozy. With a scary, glowing look in his eyes, Aaron tells his subordinates to zip it immediately, leaving them utterly terrified. Aaron thinks about how foolish those men are, thinking about drinking while their lives are on the line, though he agrees the district is pretty filthy. Suddenly, the MC spots a mysterious figure wearing a brown hood sitting out in the rain, making him suspicious. He approaches the stranger and calls out loudly, demanding his immediate attention. Aaron identifies himself as an outer fortress guard and orders the individual to pull back his hood so he can see his face. The person under the hood lets out a grim chuckle, remarking that it's been a long time since their last encounter. Standing up, the man reveals his identity and calls the MC by name, leaving Aaron taken aback by the revelation. The brute grins maniacally, saying that they've finally managed to cross paths again. Before the guy can even finish his sentence, Aaron delivers a brutal punch straight to the middle of his face. The blow is so powerful that it sends the big guy flying into a stack of wooden crates, smashing everything to pieces. Aaron calls him a jerk, realizing he's the exact guy who caused trouble and got caught, viewing it as great timing. The man, terrified and bruised, whimpers that he's just an herb collector from that alley and was only there to report a theft. Aaron realizes the awful blunder he made and plays it off, saying he was sure he recognized his face from somewhere. The herbalist cries in pain, complaining furiously about being attacked out of nowhere in the middle of the street for doing nothing wrong. The man laments his terrible day, since all his herbs were stolen and now he got beaten up by the patrol on top of it. He wonders why a thief would steal grimroot, a super common herb, but that detail sets off an alarm in Aaron's head. Knowing that the leaves of that plant are used to stop bleeding, the MC immediately asks which way the thief fled. As the heavy rain pours down, a wounded silhouette huddles in the dark corner of a dead-end alley. Underneath his hood, young Hans groans in agony while trying to apply pressure to the severe wound that won't stop bleeding. Suddenly, he hears someone calling his name through the storm and opens his eyes wide in absolute shock. Aaron appears right in front of him, asking calmly why the kid is staring at him with such a terrified look. The captain notices the injured hand and remarks that it's pathetic to see someone who was always so careful end up hurt like this. He tells him that the chase is over and orders Hans to come quietly while he's still being nice about it. Hans, trembling and desperate, whispers back that it isn't over yet and that he can't give up now. Suddenly, the air around them begins to hum strangely, catching the experienced warrior's attention. The rainwater around them starts behaving unnaturally, floating up in magical spheres. Massive drops of water pool in mid-air, channeling a massive amount of elemental energy. A giant whirlwind of water magic is suddenly summoned, illuminating the dark alley with a blue glow. He realizes the spell's power is ridiculously high and deduces that the heavy rain is boosting Hans' magic. With a sad, regretful look, Hans apologizes to Aaron for what he's about to do just to escape. The young mage states that he simply can't afford to get caught right now and unleashes the devastating spell. Aaron quickly readies himself and charges straight through the torrent of magical water to neutralize the incoming attack. Hans screams in desperation that the battle isn't over, continuing to gather whatever strength he has left. He extends his hand, glowing with magical circles of blue runes, to cast another binding spell. Aaron complains about the miserable coincidence of having to fight a water mage on such a rainy day. Seeing that the situation is getting way too dangerous, the captain makes a split-second decision to end the clash. With a grim, determined gaze, he bolts at top speed toward his injured opponent. He decides the best option to prevent further damage is to subdue the young mage before another spell is unleashed. Hans panics completely, trying to speed up the incantation of his next magical barrier in time to protect himself. Aaron locks his relentless gaze onto the target, showing no hesitation or mercy whatsoever. Aaron commands Hans to shut his mouth once and for all, lunging forward with a decisive strike to finish the fight. As he attacks, Aaron senses a mysterious power behind Hans' words while delivering a swift slash with his blade. The precise cut only grazes the boy's neck, causing a tiny trickle of blood to run down. Unarmed and terrified, the young mage asks through tears if the MC is going to spare his life. Aaron looks at him sternly and mentions the rumors that he had made a forbidden pact with a demon. He explains that if the rumors were true, there would be a very distinct mark or scar right near his heart. The captain decides to check for himself to get proof once and for all regarding the accusations. Pulling open the boy's clothes, Aaron sees that his chest is completely clear, without a single mark. Knowing he isn't a demon's servant, the MC asks why he would commit such a severe crime then. Hans says it would be hard to understand even if he explained it now, but promises he'll learn the truth one day. Hearing the shouts of the other guards drawing near, the captain grows frustrated, feeling like he's about to lose his mind. Quickly, the young man pulls a small health potion flask from his belt and pops the cork to use it. He pours the healing liquid directly over Hans' injury, causing the wound to close instantly. The captain warns him that it's just a basic recovery potion and tells the kid to stop dramatizing and get out of there. As he walks away, he ponders whether losing an arm over a simple theft wouldn't already be punishment enough. However, he acknowledges that judging the law isn't his job, especially while living in such a harsh medieval era. The captain knows all too well that around here, the only options for criminals are usually innocence or the gallows. In a firm tone, he gives the final order for the youth to get out and vanish once and for all. Hans smiles in relief, his eyes welling up with tears, and thanks him warmly, calling him brother. Annoyed by the lingering, Aaron gives him a light kick to finally get him moving and send him on his way. He shouts for the boy to stop calling him brother and get lost as fast as his legs can carry him. The young mage grabs his belongings quickly and starts running off, seizing the chance he was given. Before vanishing completely into the dark, he looks back and thanks him again with a genuine smile. Meanwhile, the other guards arrive at the spot, yelling that this is the last remaining area to search. Aaron walks thoughtfully through the eastern border fortress, grumbling in his head about the boy's persistence. By the following day, it becomes clear to everyone that Hans managed to slip away and vanished completely from the area. Around the fortress, people remember Hans by his many flattering nicknames, like Handsome or Gentle Hans. However, the mood shifts drastically when a piece of women's underwear falls right in front of a maid. The girl is utterly shocked and horrified as she stares at that intimate garment lying on the courtyard floor. It's then revealed that all those compliments went down the drain when they discovered he was the castle's undergarment thief. The captain laments living in this medieval world devoid of ethics, crossly wondering whose stolen undergarments those were this time. A furious fist slams down onto the wooden table, demonstrating one of the men's frustration. The soldier fumes angrily, calling Hans a rat and asking where the jerk could have fled to. Kale chuckles, remarking that it's wild how no one can locate the fugitive even after turning the entire fortress upside down. Young Briggs suggests the possibility that Hans used high-level sorcery to slip away without leaving a trace. Poole calls the rookie an idiot, sarcastically adding that if magic solved everything, nobody would need to carry weapons. Carter, slumped over the table from sheer exhaustion, mutters a plea for everyone to pipe down and stop yelling. He complains that he hasn't gotten even 5 hours of sleep over the past 3 days, but his squad mates tell him nobody ever passed away from lack of sleep. Poole coldly disagrees, warning that at the rate his buddy is going, he's definitely going to drop dead. The others agree, recalling how Carter was so drained the day before that he even got sick from sheer exhaustion. Vermin interrupts the chatter, announcing that the search is officially over and everyone should take the chance to rest up. One of them mocks Vermin for boasting so much despite only being the unofficial second in command. Down the hallway, a mysterious voice calls out to Aaron, addressing him as the captain of the Outer Guard's 4th unit. The mysterious man calmly lights a cigar using a match, projecting absolute authority and composure. He introduces himself as William, stating it's a great pleasure to finally meet Captain Aaron in person. Aaron recognizes William as the justice officer, someone powerful enough to order his execution or life imprisonment with a single word. William, who sits at the top of the guard command, repeats the suspicion that Aaron might be very close to the criminal Hans. Furthermore, the officer highlights the suspicious fact that the captain patrolled District 7 completely alone late at night. He presses the MC, asking how he failed to turn up a single relevant clue in his search sector. He points out that it was an unmonitored area and directly accuses the captain of aiding the criminal's escape. Unfazed, Aaron responds that the place is nothing but filth, challenging the superior officer by asking if he has any real proof. William blows out a puff of cigar smoke and merely mutters suspiciously, assessing the captain. The officer then calls for the Outer Guard commander, Manuel, who answers instantly, trembling with nerves. William praises the pricey cigars Manuel gifted him, noting that they have a splendid flavor. He sarcastically questions how Manuel managed to buy something so costly on a modest salary, leaving the commander stuttering in fear. The officer teases that Manuel surely didn't steal or embezzle public funds, and the commander swears while breaking into a cold sweat that he'd never do such a thing. William shifts his tone and coldly commands everyone to pay close attention to the serious message he's about to deliver. He makes it crystal clear that anyone within this castle who commits a crime or aids a criminal will face severe consequences. Pressing the glowing tip of his cigar against Aaron's armor, William threatens that all such traitors will perish by his hand. He warns the MC that it would be very beneficial for his health to keep that warning firmly in mind. Aaron maintains absolute composure, simply brushing off the ash that fell onto his armor. With a forced smile on his face, the captain politely replies that he'll keep the warning in mind. By evening, birds fly over the tall castle walls as the search for Hans is finally called off. His subordinates bid him farewell, wishing him a good trip home, and Aaron merely waves back in acknowledgement. The MC inwardly complains about this cursed medieval era lacking basic human rights, exhausted after hours of tedious investigating. He sighs and ponders the nerve of that kid Hans, who caused him so much trouble in a single day. At least he feels a sense of relief realizing the boy seems to have successfully gotten away without being caught. Suddenly, a sharp scream coming from inside a nearby inn cuts through Aaron's peaceful walk. Inside, a group of mercenaries is harassing the landlady, making crude comments about her beauty and refusing to leave. Henna, the owner of the Laughing Rabbit Inn, tries desperately to resist, demanding that they let go of her hand. The group's leader, Dylan, sarcastically tells his buddy to treat the lady with more manners, pretending to be a gentleman. Dylan cynically claims the lady has it all wrong and that they're just trying to make new friends in town. He gives a creepy smile, hinting that he wants a very close friendship to spend the rest of the night sharing a bed with her. The mercenaries slam the table and burst out laughing, thoroughly enjoying their shameless harassment of the innkeeper. Henna sighs in exhaustion, warning them that as foreign mercenaries, starting trouble here will only bring them serious bad news. She firmly advises them to stop right now before they end up bitterly regretting what they're doing. Annoyed by the owner's warnings, one of the brutes slams a violent hand onto the wooden table. Dylan stands up glaring at the woman and threateningly asks what's going to happen if they decide not to stop. He steps toward her aggressively, intimidating her and demanding to know what she thinks she could possibly do about it. Dylan scoffs, asking if she's actually expecting some city guard to suddenly pop up and save her. He snickers that no soldier would waste time coming to an old isolated inn right as the front door swings open. Looking toward the entrance over Dylan's shoulder, Henna breaks into a massive smile, immensely relieved. The local regulars begin to cheer happily upon seeing who just walked through the front door. Everyone in the tavern shouts Aaron's name while he stands at the entrance with a calm yet intensely threatening look. Henna immediately bolts toward the MC to shelter behind him, putting distance between herself and the mercenaries. The aggressors watch the newcomer arrive, starting to feel the room's atmosphere shift into something dangerous. One of the brutes steps up to Aaron aggressively, grunting to try and assert dominance. Showing no fear whatsoever, Aaron glances sideways at the intruders and utters a cryptic phrase, 10 days. Henna tries to bargain, offering only 5 days of free lodging, reminding him that protecting citizens is his duty as a guard. Aaron counters by asking for 9 days since his shift is over, and she bumps her offer to 6, leaving the mercenaries completely bewildered. Dylan turns bright red with anger at being completely brushed off, fuming at the pair's total disregard. As the brute lunges to throw a punch, Aaron calmly accepts the final deal of an 8-day stay. The attacker screams in irritation, asking where the MC thinks he's looking in the middle of an incoming swing. With breathtaking reflexes, the captain effortlessly catches the attacker's face using just one hand. He casually remarks that the mercenary has a terrible medieval habit of running his mouth with vulgarities. While crushing the brute's face, Aaron proposes a deal to Henna, 6 days free and tonight's dinner included. The MC asks if they have a deal while holding the opponent, who is squirming in pain in his grip. Henna accepts the deal gladly on the spot, even while admitting she doesn't fully grasp what the word deal means. Aaron grins, warning that from here on out, things are going to get ugly for the intruders who dared disturb the peace. With brute force, the young man slams the thug headfirst into the wooden table, shattering it to bits. Wrapped in a murderous aura, Aaron declares with a dark look that it's time to teach these medieval barbarians a lesson. Dylan takes a step back, completely shocked to see his buddy get knocked out so brutally and swiftly. As the mercenaries shriek in terror, the inn's patrons cheer excitedly because the brawl has finally kicked off. Aaron throws a heavy right hook, thinking to himself that in reality, there's no such thing as inherently bad medieval people. He finishes his logical train of thought, believing there are only people who need to get beat up a bit more to learn. He guarantees that after every single one of those troublemakers catches a solid blow from him, things will change. Without a doubt, they'll start acting a lot more polite and gentle from here on out. The patrons shout happily for Captain Aaron, calling for more drinks to celebrate, revealing why they're such loyal regulars. They explain that they love the place because there's a real monster living here, the cheat Captain Aaron, the ultimate cleaner of troublemakers. The customers declare themselves loyal followers of the captain, cheering wildly for him to keep beating up the instigators. Listening to the crowd's over-the-top cheering, Aaron just sighs, thinking those people are acting up all over again. The captain thinks to himself that one day he ought to give his own noisy customers a good thrashing to quiet them down. Aaron then turns to Dylan, who is slumped on the floor bleeding, and calls out to him in an icy, calm tone. He points to the weapon Dylan is carrying and threateningly asks if he actually intends to draw that thing. Terrified, Dylan forces a nervous smile and instantly declines with his hands raised, begging not to get beaten up any further. With the commotion completely settled, night falls and the 4th unit captain finally wraps up his shift. Later, in a dark room lit only by the moonlight filtering through the window, silence takes over the space. Aaron lies down on his in bed, completely drained physically and mentally from all the recent events. An old memory resurfaces, where someone mentioned that the boy didn't even have a proper name in the beginning. The voice in his memories suggested that from that moment on, everyone would call him by the name Aaron. In the memory, the red-haired warrior looked back in desperation, pleading for him to run away from there. She demanded that he run with all his strength and not look back under any circumstances while escaping. Her final wish was for him to keep breathing and survive no matter the cost, uttering his name one last time. The MC wakes up with a start from his nightmare, gripping his sword's hilt tightly, still panting and haunted by the memories. He wipes the sweat and tears from his face, trying to catch his breath after reliving that traumatic moment from the past. The following morning, rays of sunlight illuminate the beautiful fortified city of Kasurdik, bringing a much calmer atmosphere. In an open courtyard, Eren trains in a disciplined manner, executing precise strikes into the air with his combat sword. He reflects that 6 long years have already passed since he suddenly got transported to this medieval world. The captain wonders how long he'll manage to maintain this exhausting routine of daily training and military duties. A knight in gleaming armor with silver hair approaches him from behind, praising the simplicity of his weapon. He claps his hands and confesses to being genuinely surprised to find such a skilled swordsman on the fringes of this fortress. Eren halts his training drills and turns around slowly to assess the visitor with suspicion. The MC notices that the young man's armor prominently displays the official crest of the influential Fenner family. He also spots an elegant rapier at the man's hip, its hilt decorated in a golden spiral pattern. Eren narrows his eyes, immediately recognizing that this guy isn't just any local soldier. He concludes with absolute certainty that the visitor is, in fact, a top-tier elite knight. Knights are known as formidable warriors who can channel magical auras and battle demonic forces. They've pushed past human physical limits, widely regarded as the ultimate sword of all humanity. If that young man really belongs to the Fenner family, he must be a knight sent directly from the distant Thunder Fortress. The MC wonders why on earth the Empire would dispatch such a powerful warrior to an outpost like Kasurdik. The visitor smiles in a friendly manner and tells him not to worry, saying he just got carried away seeing such impressive skill. The knight begins to ask if Eren belongs to any military order, but gets cut off by a loud shout calling for Ben. A young woman with long blonde hair and an elegant dress appears in the courtyard, complaining about Ben suddenly wandering off. She introduces herself as Vivian Foolpoots, daughter of the Lord of Kasurdik, and fumes, asking how her escort dares leave her behind. Ben apologizes humbly for the disruption, while Vivian notices Eren, realizing the two were in the middle of a conversation. Quickly, Eren drops to one knee to show official respect, introducing himself as the captain of the 4th Patrol Unit. He gives a formal greeting to the young noblewoman, demonstrating all the required etiquette expected before the Lord's daughter. She laughs and apologizes for the absurd fuss the theft of her undergarments caused the guard, admitting her father went overboard. Eren assures her it's no problem at all, yet remains deeply intrigued about why she'd need an escort from an elite warrior. She then politely takes her leave, saying she doesn't want to interrupt his training any longer, pulling Ben along to continue their way. Vivian gives a sweet little laugh and asks the captain to keep working hard to protect and secure the fortress. As he walks away, young Ben glances sideways at the MC, wonderingly asking himself if he's truly just an ordinary guard. Ben finds the whole thing bizarre, as he's entirely convinced Eren possesses the strength and stance of a true knight. Eren stays dead silent in the training yard, observing the young man's suspicious behavior from afar. Though he smells trouble brewing, the MC decides to turn a blind eye to avoid getting dragged into a mess, preferring to just get to work. However, the captain's peace lasts for a very short time, as Commander Manuel lets out an enraged shout calling his name. Eren is left completely baffled by the urgent summons, wondering what could have happened that was grave enough to set off the commander like that. The scene cuts to the imposing inner fortress of Kasurdik, the location where high-ranking officers and the administration reside. Approaching one of the administrative offices in the inner fortress, the MC hears furious shouting echoing from inside. Manuel fumes madly, asking if the captain has lost his mind for good and reminding him that he needs to be very careful about who he beats up. The commander yells furiously, asking why the captain left the important mercenaries hired by the inner fortress itself half dead. Demanding a punishment, Manuel orders the MC to personally go fix the whole mess he created the night before. Eren grumbles in annoyance, having never imagined those troublemakers were official mercenaries hired directly by the inner fortress. To make matters even worse, the MC discovers he'll have to deal directly with the administrative authority in charge of that sector. After a few knocks, an authoritative female voice answers from within, harshly commanding him to step inside at once. He enters the beautiful, spacious office, politely asking if the person in charge was indeed looking for him. Nova, the administrative officer, pauses her writing for a moment and asks with disdain if it's Eren causing trouble once again. She stands up angrily, furiously questioning what kind of guard captain constantly gets himself wrapped up in non-stop chaos. She coldly suggests he hand in his resignation immediately if he finds the job too difficult, so he stops making life harder for other staff. Unintimidated, Aaron gives a sarcastic smirk, thinking to himself that she's still the most talkative and bossy officer in the entire castle. The MC recalls Kale's bizarre romantic advice about how to win over a woman's favor easily and without any hassle. Following Kale's tip, the captain attempts to keep a gentle smile on his face, calling her name in a tone he considers soft. Nova simply stares at him in dead silence, utterly confused and unable to make sense of the MC's sudden shift in behavior. He remembers the second step taught by Kale, which was to offer sweet, specific compliments that could melt her heart. He tries to compliment her hair in a creepily weird way, leaving even Kale's imaginary spirit desperate over the horrendous blunder. Nova stares at him in horror at the weird compliment, wondering if the captain has completely lost his marbles. Exhausted, she rubs her forehead and says, dealing with him gives her nothing but headaches, while Aaron secretly celebrates the success of his tactic. She reveals that the beaten-up group was supposed to escort a carriage, and Aaron counters by saying those guys look more like piles of trash than mercenaries. Running completely out of patience for his excuses, the officer shouts, demanding he shut his mouth immediately, and he obeys on the spot. She decrees that since he knocked out the escort, he'll have to take over the job as punishment and compensation, with zero right to refuse. Aaron reluctantly accepts the penalty, since it was his fault after all, but asks what exact mission he'll need to carry out. The mission consists of ensuring the safe escort of an important carriage, traveling along the region's winding roads. The convoy moves slowly under the cover of the dark night, with lit lanterns guiding the horses along the treacherous dirt path. Walking alongside the escort, Aaron notices the huge number of hired soldiers, finding it overkill for a single ordinary carriage. He observes that most of the crew consists of hired mercenaries, making it seem like they're preparing for a large-scale battle. Faced with so many unusual details, the MC begins to get a very bad gut feeling about what might go down on this trip. Looking to the side, the captain decides to ask one of the surviving mercenaries who exactly is riding inside the carriage. Dylan recognizes Aaron immediately and panics completely, unable to comprehend how that absolute monster ended up right there with them. Dylan tries to hide his fear by shouting that he's much stronger than he looks, while the captain sarcastically mocks his resilience after yesterday's beating. Upon being asked if he got beat up less than his buddies, Dylan changes his tune instantly, fearfully saying the captain can call in whatever he wants. With night fully fallen, the soldiers discuss the need to camp out or take shelter in a small village located nearby. The MC grows thoughtful upon hearing about the village, attempting to recall any important info regarding that location. The convoy finally arrives at the village of Knockville, situated on the outer edges of Caserdic, beneath a massive, eerie full moon. The men begin whispering in fear as they realize the entire village is completely deserted, with no sign of any local residents. A hooded soldier whispers fearfully, raising the terrible suspicion that this might be the work of evil demonic forces. Dylan quickly tells his comrade to shut his mouth and stop spewing scary nonsense before he brings bad luck to the group. Noticing that the MC is stepping away from the convoy, the mercenary shouts in alarm, asking where his protector is going. Dylan runs frantically after him, begging for them to stick together in that creepy dark place. Meanwhile, within the comfort of the carriage, the young noblewoman Vivian flashes a subtle, mysterious, and silent smile. Black crows fly high among the dry branches of dead trees, letting out eerie cuz that heighten the tense atmosphere. Dylan finally catches up to the captain and worryingly asks if there's anything dangerous going on in that silent, mysterious village. Aaron wonders where all the villagers could have gone so suddenly when he abruptly hears a voice calling out for a night. In a flashback, a young boy receives a beautiful red-covered book as a gift, asking in surprise if that object is truly for him. The boy smiles happily, hugging the book and thanking the knight, begging him never to forget to visit if he ever returns to his village. Back in the present, Dylan looks down at the ground and lets out a confused gasp upon noticing a strange, dark puddle beneath his feet. He takes a step and realizes with sheer dread that the puddle on the floor of the deserted village is actually a large pool of fresh blood. Terrified by the discovery of that massive pool of blood, Dylan screams in horror, but Aaron calmly calls him by his nickname, Weasel. The captain orders him in a firm, serious voice not to look up under any circumstances. However, it's already too late, and the mercenary comes face to face with a horrifying scene of carnage with several lifeless bodies hanging right above. Seeing that gruesome slaughter up close, Dylan can't hold back his weak stomach and begins to feel horribly sick, nearly throwing up in horror. Aaron hears faint footsteps approaching and turns his head slowly toward the sound with caution and mistrust. His eyes widen as he hears a familiar voice calmly speaking his name and his official title of guard captain. He turns around completely to see who is standing right behind him in the shadows of the quiet village. Standing before him is the young noblewoman Vivian, who coldly questions his reason for investigating that deserted area at this hour. Instead of answering her question, Aaron counters sternly, questioning the girl's own presence in that bloody alley. The young woman cracks an enigmatic smile under the moonlight, revealing a sinister look that makes the MC even more suspicious of her motives. Meanwhile, back at the guards' makeshift camp, a cauldron of hot stew simmers slowly over an open fire. The men form an orderly line to receive their portions of hot food, trying to brush off the tension of the abandoned village. The mercenaries praise the generous amount of meat in the bowl, joking that they would have deserted if the food was terrible too. Dylan watches his comrades eating with an appetite, finding it absurd that everyone is so relaxed after witnessing the Noctville massacre. He horrifiedly wonders what kind of insane monster would be capable of committing such a violent atrocity against the villagers. The convoy leader approaches the campfire and solemnly states that the deaths in the village were caused by a sacrificial ritual. He explains that what they found was a macabre ritual, where human lives are offered up as a tribute to evil demons. The veteran offers Aaron a drink, but the MC turns down the wine, reasoning that alcohol tends to dull his reflexes. Dylan willingly accepts a gulp of the drink, while Aaron jokingly threatens to end him if he gets sick and pukes again. The convoy commander introduces himself as John and asks if they're new recruits, as he'd never seen their faces in the unit before. The MC reveals his name as Aaron and explains he isn't a career mercenary, merely providing temporary service here. John finds the response funny and advises him to rest up and eat well, predicting that this journey will be far more dangerous than expected. Dylan points toward the carriage and brings up the rumors that the castle's young noblewoman is known by all as the Flower of the East. A radiant, beautiful image of Vivian flashes through the soldiers' minds, highlighting the elegance and grace of the local lord's only daughter. Dylan praises her beauty and admits he already suspected this was no ordinary mission upon seeing such a prominent noble traveling with that escort. Aaron remains in total silence, staring into the campfire flames as the pieces of the puzzle begin to connect in his mind. He recalls the moment he confronted Vivian in the streets of the empty village, demanding to know her true reason for being there.